Hi AP Bio students, I'm Mrs. Bishop, and this learning video is to help you understand how to do a few different things with the TI-84 graphing calculator. So first thing, turn it on. The on button's down here on the bottom left. We need to understand how to enter data into our calculator so that we can find mean, median, standard deviation, and do a couple of things called chi-square tests of significance. So the first thing, would you please go into Stat? So here's your Stat button. That's where you're going to enter a lot of data and also have your calculator do some different statistical things. First thing we want to do is hit 1 or Edit. And what it does is it takes us into a series of lists where it's like a spreadsheet. We can put in a bunch of different numbers. Now, I happen to have a distribution already in list 1, but I want to show you how to put values into a list and also how to remove them. So first thing, I don't want these numbers in list 1 anymore. So I'm going to go up to the top using my arrows, and I'm going to highlight L1. And the way that we remove all of the numbers in a list is we push the button clear right there, and then we hit enter and tell the calculator to do it. It clears all of the values. So let's pretend that we want to put in just some random numbers. So 6 and then enter. You have to hit enter after every entry. 5, 4, 9, 12, 14, 10, 3. So what we have is we have a distribution in list 1. Now you'll notice that it's kind of waiting for me to put another number in because the calculator does not know how many numbers we want to put into this list. You'll notice that every single time it says L1, so it's reminding you the list that you're in, and then it's got a number next to it. This number 9 is saying, hey, I'm waiting for the 9th entry. So let's put in a 4. And then the 10th entry, let's put in an 8. You can scroll, figure out which entry is which value. Up and down, you can see your distribution. Now let's pretend that we actually have a typo. Let's pretend on the 8th entry that I didn't mean to type a 3, I meant to type a 13. So highlight that number and literally type 13 over the top and hit enter, and it replaces it. You don't have to redo an entire list. You are good to go. All right, so let's arrow over to list 2. I'm just going to put in some numbers. You do not need to follow along with this. Let's pretend that we don't want list 2 anymore. And I'm like, oh, how do I remove those values? And you see delete before you push clear. If you push delete, you've just removed list 2. You didn't delete the numbers. The list is gone. That is not what you want to do. So if you accidentally delete a list, and you probably will, it happens, you can actually reinsert it. So I think it makes sense that between list 1 and list 2, or excuse me, list 1 and list 3, I'll see list 2. So list 3 needs to be highlighted. If you're wondering how do I do that, just arrow up until L3 is highlighted. What we're going to do is insert a list. So we're going to push the blue second button and then the word delete. Because right above the delete button it says insert. And what it does is it scoots your list over and it's saying, hey, what do you want me to name this list? We want to name this list list 2. Well, if you come down here and you look at your numbers, next to the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's L1, L2, L3, etc. We want list 2. Because it's in blue, we're going to push the blue button and then the number 2, and L2 suddenly appears. Hit enter, L2 is now back in your lists with the numbers. But we don't want the numbers, so we're going to push clear and enter. So that's how you enter data into a list. The next thing that we want to do is we want to figure out how to find the mean, the median, standard deviation of a list. First thing, always know the name of the list that you're using. We are using list 1. I'm going to put a couple of numbers back into list 2 because I'm going to show you how to do this a couple different times. We're going to go really simple. We're going to arrow down into list 2, 1, 2, and 3. Those are our numbers. So let's get out of your list. Let's go second mode because that allows you to quit. Go back into stat. Now we want to do some calculations, and there's an overwhelming number of calculations. Please focus on the first one. We want 1 var statistics, 1 var stats. So select the number 1 or hit enter, and this is what your screen will probably look like. There's a couple of different operating systems, but they work very similar. If yours looks different, you can always come and ask me in room 311. I'm more than happy to help. So we have to know the name of our list. I want to work with list 1. It's already there. It's default. Skip the frequency list, come down to calculate, hit enter. It's going to give you a ton of information. This little arrow here says that you can scroll down and see more, and this arrow here says that you can scroll back up. So X bar 8.5, that is your mean. Some of this stuff you probably don't need to know exactly what it is, so I'm going to skip it. There are two different versions of standard deviation. You have a sample standard deviation, which is the symbol S sub X. The X is a subscript. It just doesn't show up well on the calculator screen. The next one is your population standard deviation estimate. That's sigma, lowercase Greek symbol sigma. So that's how you can find the standard deviation without having to go through all of the process of the calculation. Once you play with this, it gets really fast. N is the number of values that you had in your list, 10. The minimum was 4. Q1, I'm not sure if you guys utilize quartiles. It's the spacer between the lower whisker and the first box on a box and whisker plot. So Q1, the first quarter, is at 5. The median, the 50% point marker, is 8.5. Q3 is talking about the upper 25% and lower 75%. So it's the end of the right-hand side of the box and the start of the whisker on a box and whisker plot. And then we have a maximum of 14. So I'm hoping that was pretty quick. Go second mode. Let's do it again. Let's do stat, arrow over to calc, 1var stats. Now I want to do this with list 2. So we have to tell the calculator that we're using list 2. Remember how we do that? The blue second button and the number 2, and it tells it list 2. Don't worry about the frequency list, leave it blank, come down to calculate. Here we go. We had a really small distribution. So our average, our mean, is 2. Our standard deviations, we have sample and population, minimum Q1, median Q3, maximum. So I hope that learning video helped. How to find standard deviation, mean, median, and work with lists.